from the Fox 5 studios, this is Silver State Sports Live.
Well, we're all tied up on this Monday. Welcome into Silver State Sports Live. I'm Mike Davis. Tomorrow, VGK will look to get back on top at the Fortress, but today we're going to break down a disappointing Game 4. Plus, Willie G. Ramirez will join us later to talk Aces basketball. But first, we're going to have Paul De Los Santos with NHL.com here with us to talk all things VGK. But let's start with a quick recap of Game 4. We head to the Honda Center where the Ducks are looking to tie the series at 2 under 12 minutes to play in the first period. Ducks on the power play. Gautier's wrister doesn't go, but the rebound gets back out to the point quickly, and Beckett Sinecki claps one past Carter Hart, and the Ducks take a 1-0 lead. But less than 3 minutes later, the Knights on the power play. Jack Eichel's one-timer doesn't go, but there you go. Pavel Dorofeev gets his stick on the loose rebound to tie this thing at 1. Still in the first, though, a weird-looking play here. The Knights turn the puck over on their own end, and look at that. Michael Gromlin scoops it up and fires. The shot is blocked by Cole Smith. The changeup gets past Carter Hart on the deflection. A weird one there. Anaheim takes a 2-1 lead into the first intermission, but the Knights would answer again. Vegas dumps it into the Anaheim zone, and while Bill Carlson gets there, quickly fires one in front of the net where it is buried by Brett Howden. Super hot Brett Howden, who has been red hot the entire postseason for the Knights. A great play there to tie the game at 2. And then with 2 minutes remaining in the second, the Ducks would take the lead right back. A defensive breakdown from Vegas allows Killorn to walk right in front of the net where he beats Carter Hart. 3-2 Ducks. Now the dagger would come in the third period. The Ducks controlling things in the Vegas end, and Anaheim defenseman Ian Moore lines one up from the point. It gets under the blocker of Carter Hart, and the Ducks have a 4-2 lead. Then the Knights pulled their tendy and battled back. Tomas Hertl would end his 29-game goalless streak to cut the lead to 1, but it wouldn't be enough as Vegas falls 4-3. Series now goes back to the Fortress for a massive Game 5.
I think the biggest part of the game was I think we need to get out of the second period 2-2. So that gave them some life, and they scored their fourth goal, and they're just filling the neutral zone, just stacking it. I thought that was the most important part of the game. I have zero worry about this team as far as how we're going to go about the next few games here, wherever it goes to. So I have total trust.
Well, the Golden Knights and the Ducks have each won 2 games, but the VGK will get their chance to pull ahead in front of a hometown crowd tomorrow at the Fortress. Our Vince Sapienza talked to the guys in the locker room after last night's loss.
The best-of-7 series has now turned into a best-of-3. The race to 2 wins for a spot in the Western Conference Final. Now, despite the frustration and disappointment from the Game 4 loss for the Golden Knights, confidence remains high in the locker room.
That's what you want to do. You want to get better, and we have. It's best of 3, and we're going for home for Game 5, and that's all we're thinking about is Game 5 right now, and going to try and get a win there.
I think just the stakes get higher, and people raise their level in their game, and guys have a lot of experience in this locker room, going down deep into series, and we'll lean on that again. I
have zero worry about this team as far as how we're going to go about the next few games here, wherever it goes to. So I have total trust.
So with Anaheim's latest win, that means we are guaranteed to come right back here to the Honda Center on Thursday for Game 6. But before we get there, the team will have the day off today. Back at it at T-Mobile Arena, the Fortress for Game 5, where one team will look to take a commanding lead of this second-round series. But that is the latest from the Honda Center here in Anaheim, California. For Fox 5 and Silver State Sports, I'm Vince Sapienza.
All right, still to come on Silver State Sports Live. The Aces received their rings, then bounced back after a disappointing season-opening loss. Willie G. Ramirez will join us next to break it all down.
This week on the Silver State Sports and Entertainment Network. Your Triple SEN lineup is sponsored by AAA Roadside Assistance. Visit AAA today.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
Well, joining us now to share his high-level hockey insight is Paul De Los Santos with NHL.com, also a high-level educator here in the Valley, so we got to make sure we give a nice shout-out to his AP Geography class. But great to see you, Paul. So let's talk about this. Quite the change-up from Game 3 to Game 4. What happened last night with the Vegas Golden Knights?
You know, in all honesty, it was probably one of their better games played in the series. The crazy thing is that, you know, their penalty kill has been so good throughout this entire series. And, you know, sometimes the breaks are going to come your way. And I think Anaheim got a break. And then, you know, one of the other goals they scored just kind of like reflected and fluttered into the goal. And next thing you know, it's like a lot of different things can go from there. Once you're down 2-1, it's a different ball game. And, you know, the Golden Knights are very good at chasing games. They're very good at bouncing back in very unfortunate situations. It's just like sometimes, you know, you are going to lose the ones where you can't ultimately come back all the way. And this is the case there. But to be honest, if you're a Golden Knights fan, you probably are feeling good about how they played in the big picture. It's just, you know, sometimes you don't get the result. And, you know, if you look at games 1 and 2, they split that series and then they split here. You know, this is probably how close this series really is. It's down 2-2.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a common theme in our conversations with you that the Golden Knights always find a way to come back in, you know, the third period, but sometimes it just doesn't happen. Let's talk about this. Captain Mark Stone, he's dealing with a lower body injury. He leaves that game in Game 3 on Friday. Now, if he's out for the rest of the series, because this is a guy who's no stranger to injuries at this stage of his career, how critical will his absence be for this team?
I think there's a massive difference in a team with Mark Stone than a team without Mark Stone. I think it's one of those things where, yes, they get William Karlsson back. That's going to help a ton stabilize the middle, and they now can kind of play around with that top six. But losing Stone is such a big part just because between his leadership and what he does on the ice, it can be either, you know, so subtle that you don't really notice those things he does, and also just like the way he operates in that space with, you know, whatever line he's on. So it's really a big loss. Now it's a question of like who can step up in his place. And, you know, talk today at Morning Skate, Brett, at today's media availability, Brett Howard said this is just the next man up mentality. They're going to rely on their experience, rely on their depth, so to speak. And, you know, honestly, they have Riley Smith. They have Brandon Saad. They can easily come in. I think Saad, but, you know, Saad only played about 8 minutes yesterday. But Riley Smith is on the bench. He's ready to go. He was part of that championship team. He understands what high-level hockey is, and, you know, they don't need someone to replace all of Mark Stone because they do have high-skilled players such as Karlsson. Hurdle scored a goal yesterday that's kind of big. Eichel and Marner, I think those guys themselves can kind of combine themselves, kind of make up what Stone's lacking. But I think more of the impact he has in the locker room is also what we missed.
Yeah, those intangibles, that seems to be the missing ingredient when he's out. Let's talk Mitch Marner. So, you know, Mitch Marner, he's really changing the narrative that he comes up, you know, short in postseason play. That was kind of the story of his entire career from Toronto, now here in Vegas. What's your take on his hot play? Because he's leading all players this postseason in points. Is it more so his game has grown and developed, or is it just the situation has changed being here in Vegas?
I want to say that the player never changed. I don't think Mitch Marner is like all of a sudden just turned on and become a better playoff player. No, he's always been that quality player. I think the circumstances has changed. And number two, when you're in Toronto, all eyes on you. Every micro detail is going to be significantly on you. So it's not even like the player changed. It's nothing really about him has really become a difference. It's just he's playing in a different environment where, you know, the expectations are still high, but there's like the expectation coming from directed organization and the fans. While they expect good things, the media is not going to like really get on his case. It's like he can play. I think he can play a little more free, and it's one of those things where you really think about it. Is like, you know, it's like when you stay in your home for so long that, you know, if you're the hometown hero, there's going to be a ton of expectations on you.
Right.
And for Marner to leave that environment, I feel he's kind of loosened up to a degree. So I feel that's kind of just a big thing for him is that he's able just to play a little more free, not have the pressures of the entire city's expectations. He has like a good support system, and he's not having to feel like he's doing it on his own. Because in all honesty, some of it does have to do with that pressure-packed situation that is Toronto.
Yeah, and just being a kid from Toronto, playing in Toronto, that was certainly a lot of pressure. Let me ask you this. Do you think his play, because he had a good season, around 80 points, would you say Bruce Cassidy didn't unlock him to the level that John Tortorella is unlocking him? Who do you think who's a better coach for him in terms of just unlocking his style of play?
I personally think either coach would work fine. I think this is the case of you look at like the big picture here and how the team has played since Bruce more or less left. It has been, they've been a little more free, been a little more loose, but the same issues are very much holding true from when Bruce and Torts were there. I think reality is just that, this team has a very good tendency to level up in these high stress situations, given their experience. I think that's kind of what's helping here. That I think Bruce like to say is that guys like to drag each other into fights, and in this case, Mitch was dragged into a fight, and I think his skill is now shining a little bit. He's pulling the team because he's now being the playmaker. So I think it's just a matter of the circumstances were just very much in Torch's favor, but I think Bruce at some point would have been able to get the same production because we did see it in Spurs during the regular season.
Okay, Paul, thank you so much for spending some great time with us. We'll see what happens in Game 5 at the Fortress. We appreciate your time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, coming up, we're talking baseball. From the injury bug finding the A's and Jacob Wilson to the call-up making waves. We got it all covered. Coming up.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
It was an emotional roller coaster of a weekend for the Las Vegas Aces. Saturday, before the season opener, the Aces received their 2025 WNBA championship rings, but quickly the moment was spoiled as the Mercury took down Vegas 99-66. Then they bounced back on Sunday, dominating the Sparks 105-78. And here to break down that emotional roller coaster of a weekend is the man who deserves all the bling, especially today on his birthday. So we're wishing a very happy birthday to Mr. Willie G. Ramirez of WGRamirez.com. Happy birthday, my friend. Let's start with this. Saturday afternoon, Aces punched in the face right after that championship ring ceremony. It wasn't close. What happened in that game against the Mercury?
I just think that there was a lot of emotion going into it. I think that you have first of all, thank you, Mike. Thanks for having me. I think there was a lot of emotion going into it, not only off the ring ceremony, but when you're trying to blend in a wealth of new talent. Yes, you have that core there in terms of Asia Wilson and Chelsea Gray and Jackie Young, Kirsten Bell, the players that were here, Jewel Lloyd, to help bring that ring here, bring that third championship in 4 years. There are some big names that have joined this roster. So the emotion of a ring with players that are hoping to get a ring and blend in a new chemistry and blend in sort of that new look roster. It was difficult when you go against a team that was swept in last year's WNBA finals. It's coming here to spoil that. So I just think that there was a mixture of emotions. I think if you play that same game 10 times and there's no ring ceremony, I think the Aces are probably winning 6 or 7 of those games. So I think there was just a lot to soak in. You heard Asia mention it after the game. She didn't blame it on the ring ceremony. She said, hey, I'm not making excuses, but there is a lot that goes into receiving that and the build-up for it. Maybe do it afterwards. And I get why you maybe don't want to do it afterwards, because if let's say they do lose, now you're coming and you're celebrating again, you're celebrating after a loss. So it's very difficult in how to weigh that. So I'm not going to outright blame the ring ceremony. I just think there was a lot to it. And you add in Phoenix's revenge mode.
Yeah. T-Mobile
was packed. I think that they righted the ship last night, and you saw a little bit more. First game with a new roster, and Becky mentioned about the defense, and it's something that they'll work on.
Yeah, I wonder what the record is in the WNBA, NBA when they do that, ring ceremony. How many of those teams that receive the ring actually end up winning that night? It's a fascinating emotional roller coaster to dissect. But let's talk about the bounce back on Sunday. So they take down the Sparks in LA. New ace Kennedy Carter had a great game, 22 points off the bench. So it seems like you're not concerned after the ring ceremony, but tell us a little bit about what you saw out of the performance last night in Kennedy Carter, because like you mentioned, it's a new look roster, a lot of new players that are going to have to figure out how to play together.
Yeah, the good thing about it is the players that Becky Hammon and Nikki Fargas brought in, they're veterans. So I don't think that there's a lot of, teaching them the schematics of what Becky Hammon wants done. These are players that have learned to adjust. They played in different systems, so they're going to adapt. As far as Kennedy Carter, I think that, and I talked to her before Saturday's game. We did a one-on-one. I've got a column coming out on her for the Sporting Tribune. I think that this is the only place in the WNBA that was a perfect spot for her, the landing spot that allows her to be Kennedy Carter. You can go to other places and fit in with schemes, but when you talk about a player like that with a dynamic personality that a lot of people have questioned, this is a locker room culture. A lot of people were wondering about why the Aces did what they did when they brought Alyssa Smith in, because of the rumors and of her sort of her personality, which she fit in this locker room. And look what happened when she got here. It's more about embracing who that person is. We're not trying to change you. We want you to come in and be who you are. That's why we brought you here. What we want you to do is enjoy what we embrace and then fit within the system and play your role. And I think that's what Kennedy Carter is going to be able to do. She mentioned that she's felt the love. She's really has established relationships with several of the players, especially from Chicago, around the league. So I think what you saw yesterday was a good balance. I think what you saw was a team that wanted to bounce back and make a statement, that had been working hard out at their headquarters. And, the LA Sparks are no slouch. I don't want people to think, well, it was a drop in caliber of play, because that's not the case. The LA Sparks are going to be a very hard team to beat. So I just think that you go from one rivalry to another, you're coming off a loss, and it's the defending champs. The Aces showed what we can expect more of. I think that yesterday was more indicative, with the help of Kennedy Carter, Stephanie Talbot, Breezy Turner, these newer players to the roster. It's more indicative to what we saw yesterday than what we saw Saturday.
Yeah, and Kelsey Plum also had 27. She had a nice game against her former team as well. Willie, you're the best on all this stuff. We're wishing you a very happy birthday. Thanks for hopping on with us.
All right, Mike, thank you.
All right, he's one of the hottest players in all of baseball. Aviators outfielder and A's number 5 prospect, Henry Bolte, is bolting his way up to the majors. Now get this, in his last 12 at-bats, Bolte has 12 hits, 9 of those being extra base hits with 4 home runs and 7 RBI. He has a .348 batting average down here with the Aviators in Las Vegas. Now, we can't wait to see him up at the big leagues, but the A's have yet to officially confirm the move. Now the good thing is the Athletics have a lot of depth, constantly calling guys up, and now the injury bug that has been with the team all season long has reached Jacob Wilson. You saw it right there. Wilson left Sunday's game after an injury to his left shoulder following that diving play. He was replaced by Daryl Ernaiz. Marcotte after the game calling it a shoulder sprain.
Yeah, I mean, he knew he injured something in the shoulder area. So, it's unfortunate. I mean, a great play, but, anytime you're put in that situation where you make the great play and it results in an injury, it's kind of tough, But, I mean, that's the way Jacob plays the game and plays it hard, and you got to appreciate that.
Yeah, you saw it right there, putting his body on the line. Immediately, you can see discomfort in his face. It's unclear right now if Wilson will miss any time. He's undergoing testing today. We could find out as early as tomorrow if the A's will be without him. The A's are off today, but take on the Cardinals back in Sacramento tomorrow. Coming up, we're showing you the bling from Saturday, a closer look at those 2025 Aces championship rings.
You're watching Silver State Sports Live.
Okay, so earlier we talked about the Aces' struggles during their season opener, but let's take a closer look now and review their 2025 championship rings, their third ring celebration in just 4 seasons. So let's take a look at what we got here. Now you can see on the ring, there's homage to the 2022, 2023, and 2025 seasons. These are obviously sweet rings. You got the 3 titles front and center, but if you take a close look, you can see it's almost a ring within a ring. They designed it pretty cleverly, if that's a word. I do think, as we were talking with Willie G. Ramirez, who we wish a happy birthday to, when you get the emotional roller coaster of receiving your ring from the previous season, having to have all that jubilation, have Tom Brady there sporting a nice red jacket, it's a lot to think about. Then you got to adjust yourself mentally, emotionally to go take on a team and play some basketball. I don't like how they structure that. It should be done in the offseason. But listen, it's one game. We're 500, and now they got their rings. We'll see you here tomorrow.